went to a birthday party that this girl had, and we were friends, and she invited me to the birthday party, and I went to the birthday party thinking it was going to be like every other birthday party where you just have cake and you know, pin and tail on a donkey. And she had a rock and roll band in the basement. And like, I was like, what is that? And I kind of just stood in front of them for 2 hours watching what they were doing. You know, I made a fool of myself, but I just kept watching, you know, really a guitar player, a bass player, a drummer, and singers, microphones, the whole thing. So that was the start. The girl never talked to me ever again because I made a fool of myself. But then I started asking my mom, can I get me a guitar? You know, and they would like, I keep asking, and then like a year later of asking, I found a trick. I said, Ma, can you get me drums? And they got me the guitar. I guess I started listening more closely to, you know, the popular music at the time, because I had listened to stuff that my parents had around the house, which was like show music. They would go to the Broadway plays and they would buy the soundtracks. So I grew up with all the Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff, and then when, you know, the Beatles came out and all the British bands came out, that was like, you know, well, that's guitar music. My parents knew somebody that taught like every instrument. He taught trumpet, he taught, you know, trombone, violin, but he also taught guitar. So I used to walk to Louis' house, you know, once a week and get a lesson from him, and then work from there. But he taught me kind of the right way. You have to learn how to read, which most guitar players don't do. They don't have the time or the patience for it. So I had to learn how to read, learn the chords, learn the proper way. And then over the years, I just kept at it, you know, little by little. You know, still, you know, I played baseball, did other things that we would do when you're growing up, but I still always had the guitar. We started to kind of piece it together. You know, we would kind of divvy up the parts. You're going to do this. Let's try to do this. You know, the drummer was involved. But it was all, you know, we were kids, so like, you know, we didn't have the dynamics down at that point. Everything had to be turned up to, you know, 10. I mean, like, you know, the energy level. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I learned years later that that's the reason why we couldn't stay in time. We would speed up, you know, because the energy level would kick in, especially when you started playing in front of people. You know, you start at this tempo, you know, and at the end of the tune, you're at, you know, like, how did it get to that? But that was just what everything was kicking in biologically, I guess, when you're playing. So, you know, I was involved in bands that played, you know, all the famous places in Asbury Park. We opened up for people that were traveling through. So that was further exposure. But you couldn't make a living at it because you know, I had to have a day job for years. But you kind of hone your craft working with really good drummers, good songwriters. I still work with one now, Bob Geiger, that I worked with 30 years ago. Great writer, still writing. We still get together and play, do duos. But back in those days, it was loud, you know, to the point where I had to watch my hearing after, you know, not protecting my hearing. And I've got more into acoustic music in the last 20 years, especially. And I realized that, especially my one niche that I do, which is bottleneck playing, that you have to really have a good ear, because you're playing microtones, you're playing the notes in between the notes. And if you don't have a good ear, it's like a violinist that loses their ear. You know, it's gonna sound sour, you're gonna be out. And you have to be precise. So the electric stuff was there, and I still get some calls for some sessions where I do play electric. Blues and jazz, and I had a really great instructor at college. I studied classical guitar and also jazz guitar, and it just took over, where it was like, you know, 6 to 8 hours of practice a day, and I had a great instructor for my jazz guitar, Ron Pell, fantastic. He gave me everything I need. He gave me all the tools. He gave me all the, the theory, introductions to everything, all the jazz standards, how to do chord melodies where you play the melodies and you play the chords at the same time. And that was like, I thought that was impossible to do. He showed me how to do it. So that was the start. That was really like you're immersed in it. And he used to say, Pete, you're in the woodshed and they pass the food onto the door. You stay in there. I used to go to his house in Seabright. He lived right on the river, and there was an Italian director that did a movie called Talmadge Farlow, and if you can find it, it's beautiful. It shows you his house. It shows you his coming back into the limelight because he kind of semi-retired. He kind of stepped away for a while at the height of his career, basically. He went back to what he was trained as a kid, which was sign painting. So in the movie, they show you he's on a dock somewhere, and he's doing the lettering for somebody's boat, and that's what he was hired to do. And I don't know if they knew that he was this great guitar player, but then he came out of that. He started playing again. And he was playing all over Europe. I mean, he was friends with Charlie Parker. I mean, he played in the trio with Charles Mingus. He knew all the greats. They knew him. They respected each other. He made it easy though, because he would step back. He would actually play rhythm while he let me solo. And I have tapes of all this stuff, and I've been told that they're gold. Someday they'll be worth a lot of money. I said, no, they're just. We record the lessons, and we would do some standards, and I'd back him up. And he'd take this beautiful solo, and he'd back me up, and it's like, all right, it's somewhere there, but not quite in the total jazz vein that he played it. It wasn't, music stuff. It was just being humble. That's what he was. He was just, there wasn't an ego. There was confidence, and that's the one thing I've taken from that, and that's when I play, I try to bring that out. It's not an ego thing when you play in front of people, but you have to have the confidence to play, that you have your ability and you can pull it off. The bottleneck, for some reason, that was always there. That was like going back to high school when I had listened to the Allman Brothers and listened to Duane Allman playing. And his slide playing, still to this day, is recognized as being the top. It's just so soulful, and it stirs something inside of you that it's hard to describe. So I try to do it, and it sounds really terrible for the first 6 months or so. Because you're playing like a fretless guitar in a way, and it could sound bad. You just have to keep putting the time in and get the hang of it. So I was doing that back when I was in high school. I used to enjoy to go to, I wanted to use the same slide that Duane Allman used, so I would go to the old mom and pop pharmacies because he used a medicine bottle. The old cold tablets, the Caracidin bottles. So he would use those in concerts, and I said, well, I want to use the same thing because they sound great. So I would go to the old, not the chain places, but the mom and pop places, and go to the cold aisle, and there would be the Caracidin. The packaging was heavy, and it was glass. If it was light, it was plastic. You can hear it. If you shook it, you knew that's glass. So I'd buy those packages, take them home, dump the pills in the trash, take the label off, and I had a nice slide. This is a reproduction. I do have a bunch of originals though, and they're worth a lot of money these days. But that was kind of it. And then every time I would play with people, I would bring that out, and they liked that. So I actually get calls for that quite often for singer-songwriters especially. Jumpin' Jack Strobel is a great piano player, great voice for that style. And in introducing slide guitar with blues piano, upright bass, and then the addition of very soft drums and another guitar player who plays electric, it's something I never really heard any other blues band do. We had really something totally different. Slide guitar with piano, who does that? We do it. It's interesting. It's a lot of fun. It keeps the vibe a little bit more restrained. You're not blasting out doing the Roadhouse Blues type of stuff. It's more like a Charles Brown, Dr. John style, Ray Charles style, but with slide guitar. York State, I do cultural centers and historic sites where they, like in Ocean County, I do the libraries, and people come to listen, and they're respectful, and it's quiet. And it's sometimes, like when I do house concerts, that's another big thing. People are there to listen. They paid money to hang out in that living room. They ask me questions, and they're respectful. The other times when I'm playing places, I could be playing a winery, and people are making a lot of noise. It's tough. You got to, especially when I do the guitar looping, because I have to really be focused, because I can easily make a mistake if I don't hear something exactly when I expect to hear it, and I'm off by half a beat or something, not even that much. It's like a train wreck. It could be a train wreck. The first time I did like a looping gig, I'll never forget. I was supposed to do a gig in a cafe in New York with a blues artist, and we had done this cafe a few times. I liked the venue, so he called me the day before. He said, "Pete, I can't make it tomorrow." And I'm like, "You can't make it?" Oh, so I was ready to call the place and tell them that you have to find somebody else for tomorrow. And I figured, you know what, I've been doing this looping thing. Let me try to pull it off. Let me try to do a solo performance without singing. Instrumental stuff, but also adding layers and layers of guitars and see how it works. And it was scary. It was like, I hope I can do this. And as soon as I had seen, when I started playing after one or two tunes, I saw the cook stick his head out, because he knew there was only one guitar up there, but he was hearing a lot of other stuff going on. He was trying to figure out what is going on. And he didn't know what, and this is kind of what other people will experience too. So sometimes I have to explain to people, if I show up with a microphone, what's happening, with the looping. I'm temporarily recording each section, so I put it in, I basically record it into the box. It comes back immediately, and then I go on to the next part, record that. Sometimes I go on to a third or fourth part, and eventually, like I can give you an example. There's a coda to one of my tunes called Leeds Lullaby, where at the end it has 5 guitar parts. So the coda is the ending of the tune. It's like an attachment. So this tune breaks down to nothing. It stops, and then the coda comes in. So the coda starts out with a basic guitar track, and then I'll add a bass part. I'll add another guitar part. I'll add another guitar part, and I'll play over the top of that. So eventually the tune will end with 5 parts, and they're all looped, and one is looped on top of the other, so they become layers. Think of your favorite sandwich, okay? You got the layers there. It's the same thing with the piece of music you create with a loop pedal. So this I'll do it here. Just like probably like the last 2 minutes of the tune is a coda. So it starts out with where they're at. If it's there because they just want to supplement some music in their life, and they just want to enjoy and not get too serious about it, then we'll go down that path. But if they're really into taking it as far as they can possibly take it, then I get them involved in everything. Theory is very important, without making it too scary for them. Step by step, learning things in a proper sequence. Even getting involved in looping, because looping gives them the ability to work on the improvising. And why is improvising important? Because that's developing your ear and the originality. That's the big thing to me. It's like, you can learn a song that you heard off the radio, but don't you think it'd be better if you created your own song? And you want to get it better and better. You want to be able to improvise over your own song. And the more you do that, it just keeps perpetuating, and your ear just gets better. And that's how you become a better musician, and you enjoy the music more. So they get the full scope of it. We study the styles of different guitar players, or maybe they're not even guitar players. We'll listen to piano players or sax players. What is this guy doing here? Listen to those chord changes. We'll actually identify the chords in a diatonic scale. That's the 2 chord going to 2-5-1. And they can eventually recognize that. Or another 2-5-1. So they understand the relationship between the chords and how you build your music. And then we reverse engineer tunes that they've grown up with. This is just me speaking. It's not anything that I'm an expert at it, but I just think it's a great program. I think it's one of the best in the state because it's at different levels and you can move up. There are guitar programs when you're there, and you might go from beginner to intermediate, and then you go somewhere else. Well, this one you can work your way up until you get to becoming an advanced player. Well, that's the joy of it, because you're given something that basically keeps going on, and they'll give it to other people. So the younger ones that I get, I've had some people that now I'm teaching their kids. So it goes back, because I started teaching 30 years ago in this area. But that's the beauty of it. It's that's the one big plus. If you playing music, and especially teaching, I'm not making machine guns here. Okay, I'm not exporting destructive things. I'm making something that helps to bring some peace and happiness. And that's what music is about. And where did this come from? We can make all these different things in this world that we live in, and a lot of them are not productive. But music has come from somewhere. It's a gift, and we just kind of push it along. We get so much joy out of it. There's a bridge in New York State. The lead lullaby is about a town with an old stone bridge. How it had to be taken apart and rebuilt. So when I do that piece of music, that's what I'm doing in the piece of music. I'm stopping the tune, which is when the bridge was taken down, and I'm rebuilding the tune, the bridge, and the tune, step by step, stone by stone. They kind of get it. I don't think you kind of get that in going to music in other places unless you really follow somebody for a long time. I had an interesting thing happen last time I played the Mancini Long Tom River, and it was really emotional. In the course of the show, I did a tune called "Letter from Mom," which is about my mom writing letters to me when I was a kid. Not when I was a kid. When I first moved down here, she was worried about how I was getting along. But I did the tune that day, and I get done, and people are clapping, which is nice, respectful. But somebody in the back stood up, and he said, "Pete, I knew your mom." I'm looking, and he was the butcher's son from Staten Island that she used to go to every day to hang out there, and they had a table set up for my mom in this butcher shop, and she would walk there every day, and she would hang out with them. And they loved her. She could have gotten a job there. But this guy, the son of the butcher, he worked there too when he was younger. And he just kind of connected. Everybody looked at him like, "You knew Pete Spile?" It was funny, but it was touching. So he came out to see the show because he saw the flyer for Library House or some kind of promotion. So he came and we reconnected.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.